Golden Sands. Yeah, it's on my fingers now, I'm going to hate that. Yep, sunny Stronsay. Now, I just thought, again, while it's all getting wintry and miserable in good old Blighty, I'm going to talk to you about what I think are the 5 best starter trees for bonsai. And that will take you prices, ability to work on them with very little skills, a whole host of things. But I'm going to give you my top 5, and if you've watched any of my previous videos for you, then in fact you're probably not watching this if you've watched any of my previous videos, then you'll probably guess 1 or 2 of them that are already right up there at the top. But the aim of this is to give you the ideas of trees you want to start looking out for now, before we get to the new season in 2023. And trust me, they'll be worth it if you follow my advice, and they won't cost you very much either. So, from Xavier, at the bottom end of the garden, yeah right, I wish you a happy bonsai, and hopefully you take my advice. And if you've got any questions about these trees or where I get them, then you know what you can do, pop a comment. So here's an example of 3 of my dwarf azaleas. I've grown all of them with just clip and grow. We're now in September, and there's the buds, so I know where the buds are going to be. This time of the year I can do a bit of wiring because I might want to push the buds towards the viewer. You can see how they look. None of these trees cost more than a couple of quid, and they're just so forgiving, and they look beautiful. And if I wanted to get, well, I've shown you, I've got videos on azalea. So that's the dwarf azalea, rhododendron. Alright, that's 5 years on, you get this lovely growth of the nabari and stuff, but they look beautiful, minimal work. So I was going to go for Fuji cherry, the Kojo no Mai no Mai. Beautiful flowers early part of the year, but I find with them they struggle with leaf burn or wind burn. So you get that initial flush of beautiful flowers, and they look gorgeous, but consistently I can never find the right place in the garden that keeps them protected enough that I don't end up with horrible leaf scorch. So I find them, though they're a really beautiful flower and lovely in March, I then hide them in a shady part of the garden for the rest of the year, and also don't actually do very much with them. So there's limited, you can't get your fingers involved in them, so to speak. So it could be a bit of a boredom one. But if you're looking for flowers and you want something that's hardy, that's going to give you a bit of fun, and is cheap, go and find yourself some dwarf azaleas or dwarf rhododendrons. And again, best time, go down to that bargain basement in your nursery, the one that's looking bedraggled or whatever, and see if you can find something there. All of mine, less than 2 quid, and I was able to see them in little pots, and they produce beautiful flowers every single year, and they're relatively easy to work on. You can get really great branch ramification, so you can do work on it at certainly different points of the year. So that's a really rewarding one. And then we've got our Japanese larch. This is I think I got this as a 2-year-old sapling a couple of years ago. All this is clip and grow, bud selection, but I get to play with it at least 4 times a year, so to speak. The reason why it's small, because both of these were bought at the same time. That one's twice the size. The only difference was I put that into a growing bed for an extra couple of years. So you can choose. You can either put them straight into a pot and keep the soil developing that way. And that's very simple to do. This one I put in a growing bed for just a year. When I first got them, I put half the saplings into a growing bed and left them for a year, and then some of them I've removed. But this, again, very simple, no difficulty. I've just done a little bit of, I think there were 3 branches there, so I've cut the branch there, but very easy. This one, same. These are all from the same batch, a little bit thicker. It went from the growing bed and then went into a bigger pot because I'm practicing doing a larch root over rock. so it's under a rock there. And then if you watch my top 7 in under 7, which is where I talk about me, you'll have seen this tree. This was a sapling, a 2-year-old sapling in 2002, and I did very little with it, but look at that bark. Now, yeah, I know you're going to say 20 years further on, but if you buy 20 saplings for 20 quid and you start planning ahead, you can have some fun with a few of them early on. Some you can even nursery beds for longer, but they keep you occupied and they're not costing you money. And even the pot, it's only an old mica pot, £8. The plastic pot's a couple of quid 50, I think. So yeah, so that's Japanese larch. That's an example of the sort of things. Then we look at our oaks. 2 to 3. So these ones, combination of oaks that were taken. I shouldn't say the taken word. That were recovered from my sister's front garden. She lives under a big oak tree in, I think, 2017, 2018. But you look, even that lovely, gnarly, old style. They bud from everywhere. This isn't a finished thing, but it's the sort of thing. You've got a little one in the background here. They're just brilliant. This one again. I found this in, I found a local, say, green nursery. He finds acorns and he plants them all and then sells them on. So you actually dig them up. And this was one that was just lying on the side that I was able to pick up and take away. Lovely movement. I'm trying to put it over this rock. I'm not sure how effective that'll be, but again, that actually cost me nothing. Plastic pot, I think plastic pot was 3 quid. So that was nothing. They were all nothing. And from the same place, Avalon Nurseries, and say if you can find yourself somewhere that plants trees into beds and then sells them on, then you can dig your stuff up quite legitimately and get some really good stuff. Again, lovely thick trunk. Cost me nothing apart from the time to dig it up, a bit of soil, and you can have loads of fun. Lots of pruning through the year. You can wire them, loads of stuff. So there's your good old-fashioned Quercus workus English oak. And I thought I'd better put an indoor one on there, although again I try to avoid them because I haven't got enough space. I'll tell you the one I go for, but it wasn't the first tree I got, and that's your standard tigerbark ficus or Ficus retusa. These are the only indoor trees that I actually find really easy to use, very forgiving, and they're absolutely easy on cuttings. So I bought this as a proper indoor tree for me. It was a right old bush, and cut it back several times a year, lots of work on it, but all very cheap. And from this cuttings, that's last year's cuttings from it. Root very easily. You only see shapes you can get in them, so that will be another tree soon. And this was cutting that was taken, I think, in 2018 maybe, so it's 4 years old this, from this tree. You don't compare them. And again, you can, if you don't want to do anything with them, you can actually do nothing with them and they'll grow as a houseplant for a while, and then if you get the interest back again, then you just get busy with the scissors. The only issue, as I've said with these, is you've got to stay on top of the aphids, otherwise you're going to have that horrible honeydew all over your nice furniture. So that's the ficus. Easy tree. Here's the Italian alders. Again, well, all of these were bought at the same time. Different trunk thicknesses, all just depending on whether I put them in a pot straight away, or whether I put them in the ground like I did with this, or I did a combination of both. So they were bought as a group of 10 2 or 3 year old saplings in 2017. They backbud profusely from everywhere, so you've always got options. I mean, I could even air layer here and start another one here, which, looking at that might actually be very nice. So it air layers easily, it buds easily, it back buds easily, pruning, I do clip and grow, I can do wiring, and I've never lost one, which is more like safe for my children. I lost 2 of them one time at the supermarket. Again, this one I decided to put into a mica pot, so we haven't had the same sort of trunk development, but again I can prune quite heavily, get lots of flushes of growth. This one was in a growing bed, and again you'll have seen a video of this, but all the same time, although that one's twice the size of that one, you can wire, brilliant, and it's got a really interesting bark texture. The bottom line, like the other 2, is you can do lots of work on it through the year. So that's the Italian alder, and again probably all sort of fairly informal uprights, and if you want to have a look at that, there's definitely a video that I'm actually going to point to it that's probably coming out right now, which is all about Italian alder. Absolutely fantastic tree, a real surprise find. They're my top 5, all because they're budget. You can do lots of work on them through the year. They take so much punishment, and they look like old trees pretty quickly, and you can do loads with them. And to be fair with all of these, I've just used a standard compost mix. This is well before the days when I was putting them in bonsai mix, so they're pretty tolerant of the soil conditions as well. So they're the 5. I was going to say Chinese elm, which you get everywhere, but actually, unless you've got the right place inside, they can die. The leaves can drop off. They're very, very moody when you move them, or if you get drafts. So I've had elms inside that spend a lot of time with no leaves on them that look dead. I think they cause you quite a bit of stress, and if in the early years of your budding professional, your budding hobby, you're finding this tree that just keeps looking dead, and every time new shoots come out you want to prune them, but they're not really strong enough to prune, or you want to wire but they're still only shoots. In the end, I'd say actually I would veer away totally from the Chinese elm, and any of the other indoor ones you can get, like Carmona, Fukian tea, certainly in the UK I'd leave alone. Again, if you're experienced, great. If you're not, from my experience, they just look at you and say, hey man, I'm dying, I've had enough. And that's what happened, so I wasted money with those. I keep my Chinese elm outside all year round, and they thrive. But in terms of working on them, I only have to work on them once or twice a year. So that's why that's not on the list. Anyway, I don't know whether I had examples flashing up in the background to stop you being bored by my face, or how I've done this, but that's my top 5 bonsai starter plants for beginners, and I reckon if you pick or stay with those, then you won't go wrong, and you are going to have some pretty good trees to show off to your family, your friends, and probably on your YouTube channel too. So from Xavier at the top of the garden, surrounded by, oh, we all know what this is, don't we? That's a Cotoneaster. And just to remind everyone who hasn't watched, this is a Pyracantha. These are also good, you can pick these up. Anything you pick up in the bargain basement is good, but yeah. So they're the reasons. I hope if you've watched, you've got something from it and you've understood why I've picked them. And honestly, if you've got any views yourself about those, there's loads of videos out there, but drop a line in the comments. Hopefully you'll do well for these hints. So as I say, from Xavier at the top of the garden, happy bonsaiing. Cheers. Oh, and by the way, we're only the first week of September at the moment. I don't know why I did that. It's not like what am I doing? I'm going to talk to the juniper tree. Yeah, so cheers.